thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend. It is Monday, December 2nd, and today is National Mutt Day. For all the mutts out there. No
or dogs.
No.
Dogs.
No. It specifies as mutts today. It's not for full breds. Yeah. It's only for mutts.
Yeah, or dogs. Yeah. All the dog lovers out there.
Mm-hmm. It's also National Fritters Day, Rico.
Apple? What?
No, just fritters. Just fritters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's just like broad love today, you know, like all the mutts, not saying what kind of mutts, all the fritters, not saying what kind of fritters.
That's what it is. It's all inclusionary. You know what I'm saying?
Is it All Lives Matter Day today too?
It's always All Lives Matter Day. Every day is All Lives Matter Day. It's also National Special Education Day, Rico.
I can get down with that.
And that's right. In case you didn't know, it's also Cyber Monday, you guys. Lots of sales on the internet. Lots of sales on the internet.
Cyber Monday is the best day to go online and get your adult thing on.
Anyways, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So thank you all for joining us from whatever platform you are joining us on. And here we have the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, kicking it off with his orange is the new Black Attack hat. That's right. Who often tries to tell me that it's red, but we all can see that it is truly orange because orange is the new black. That's right. It is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Thank you for the gaslighting. Jason Beck.
Yes.
Speaking of gaslighting, interesting USA Today article by M.L. Elric appeared in Friday's news dump, a slot often reserved by mainstream media for releasing bad news or documents in an attempt to avoid any major scrutiny. The piece was all about a recently elected Michigander who will soon be serving 2 terms simultaneously, one as a re-elected Monroe County commissioner and the other in Club Fed. Mark Brandt, a longtime Republican politician in Monroe County, Michigan, who was elected first to Monroe County Commission back in 2012, was reelected as county commissioner despite being sentenced to 18 months in federal prison for leasing land to an illegal marijuana operation. Brandt kept his legal troubles hidden from his constituents for years, only revealing them shortly before his resignation, right before the election this past October. Fellow Commissioner Randy Richardville told the USA Today that when Brandt's colleagues got a whiff of that he might be in trouble, Brandt assured them nothing was happening. Turns out something was happening, Richardville said. When Brandt, who was serving as chairman for the commission, finally came clean in September that he was facing a potential prison sentence, Richardville said, "We were all like, what?" Brant, this is what it says in this damn article. Brant resigned from the commission on October 1st, but it was too late for Brant to take his name off the ballot, even though he wanted to. And it was too late for other candidates to get their name on the ballot. And so Brant was elected to a fourth term, November 5th, with a staggering 90% of the vote. By then, it was too late to remove his name from the ballot, and he won re-election with 90% of the vote in the heavily Republican district. Brant plans to serve his term while incarcerated, delegating constituent concerns to colleagues and promising to make his salary available for charity. It's only $15,000, so he's making more money leasing that that land to trappers. So I guess he's gonna keep on doing what he does. His conviction sparks ethical debates, particularly over letters of support written by public officials and whether elected officials can effectively serve while imprisoned. Critics, including residents and former officials, argue that Brant should resign again, citing concerns about trust and accountability. However, Michigan laws offer limited mechanisms for removing him from office under these circumstances. Brant has dismissed the gravity of his conviction, asserting it does not compromise his ability to serve. Supporters say if there's one thing that Brant has been addicted to, it's not marijuana, it's doing good business. This guy's awesome. For the article, instead of resigning a second time, and despite his personal, quote-unquote, personal circumstances interfering with the smooth operation of the county he loves, Brant hustled over to the county clerk's office last week before checking into jail and took the oath of office to serve a fresh 4-year term. Even with time off for good behavior, Brant will spend the first year of that term behind bars, and he says that it's no big deal. "While I'm gone, my phone will be available," Brant said last week. "I have somebody who will be taking my messages, and my fellow board members have all volunteered to handle all of my constituents' concerns that I won't be able to handle." As for a salary of about $15,000 a year, Brant said he has no choice. "By law, I have to take the payment while I'm in," he said, pausing to avoid saying prison, then adding, "while I'm not here." Saying, so say what y'all want about Mark Brand, but this has got to be the most blatantly gangster shit I've heard of in a long time. This man was straight up trapping in a legal state while operating as Monroe County Commissioner. He got popped while campaigning, so he told his colleagues and constituents that, hey, it's no big deal. Then he was handed down an 18-month sentence, proving that, yeah, it was kind of a big deal. So he resigned, saying that he didn't want his legal issues to be a distraction. But it was too late, and he won the shit in the landslide. And not no Donald Trump barely eking out 50% of the vote. This man won by 90%. He was like, fuck it, y'all need me. That shit ain't that I said about being a distraction. Yeah, I misspoke. Mm-hmm. Keep my office warm, bruh. Karen finna take my calls and emails for the next year or so, but I'm gonna be good. We all gonna be good. In my opinion, whether it's Mark Brant in Michigan, Donald Trump in Washington, cats with cases are winning at the ballot box right now. Rather than getting all mad about it and screaming online about how unfair the system is or how the Republicans ain't shit for putting felons and convicts into office, I think those of us out there, and I say us, those of us, because Republicans, Democrats, whatever you are, we are all American citizens. It is all us. But those of us out there that call ourselves Democrats need to take a long, hard look in the mirror. Yeah. America wants people like this in charge. And guess what? Because of the prison industrial complex that y'all Democrats had just as much to do with building, because that still remains, there will be more Mark Brants to come. Y'all need to quit acting holier than thou and start recruiting real motherfuckers on your side too. Who knows? Maybe y'all will start winning again, because what is America, folks? Being made great again. Mm-hmm. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News. The trap wins again.
Yeah, man, I love this story, and I don't think that he should step down. I think he should totally serve his term. I mean, after all, you guys were planning on having the president serve his term on house arrest. You know what I'm saying? Over at the White House, and so you know what I mean. Not to mention Joe Biden pardoned his drug addict's son yesterday, and just
literally,
yeah. So, I think that it's totally fine that he serves his term. It's par for the course. This is what America's built on.
I commend this man, Jason. This guy said, fine, I'm going to show up to work even though I'm in fucking jail. Yeah. And that's cool. I'm going to go to jail. Rico, you can schedule your calls differently. If this man could show up on time in jail, I'm kidding. But no, this is, I actually love this story. And I think that it's, fuck yeah, the trap wins again.
Exactly. This is America, bro. This is what America's built on right here.
I mean, and listen, like American people, it's the will of the people, right? They wanted, his constituents voted for him. Yep. He was elected by his constituents.
Duly
Let's
elected.
let the will of the people prevail, right? And I appreciate also that he's like, listen, I have to take, instead of sending the money to my commissary, go ahead and donate it to charity. I think that that's commendable as well.
That's very commendable. Apparently, he has people that's going to put money on his book so he can have some spreads. It doesn't need that.
You gotta have the soup, so you can't play in the spades game.
That's right.
Yarrow, what you got on this?
Here we fucking go.
Yeah, here we go. He's gonna push back on everything.
This is challenging for me. When I
we know everything's challenging for you.
Are you Jenny? Are you guys just deciding you were like who's gonna tag team first? I mean, when I last served time for cannabis, I still had a real estate license, and so I would have my reports and inspections sent in, and then I would take calls with clients from the county jail, and I believe we're only as sick as our secrets, and all of my clients knew what was going on for me because it was a 5-year saga litigating that case, and I did a great job from jail, and I once closed a $2 million 128-acre mountaintop parcel land transaction, and I made sure 178 men in that mod ate, and we had a great time. This doesn't necessarily look like this guy was. I mean, I don't know how far out he was coloring outside the lines, so it's hard for me, Rico, to have a lot of judgment as much as I try to channel some. I do think that I think this country was founded on this idea of redemption, forgiveness. You pay your time if you do the crime, and that America loves a comeback.
So playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. All right. I'm like whatever about the story, so I have no emotional ties either way about the story. I just think it is what it is. Dude did what politicians did what politicians do, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's no big deal," and it ended up being a big deal. Dude was allegedly. No, it's not even allegedly. He got popped for it, so it's not allegedly anymore. He was leasing his land to several trappers, different tenants that were actually doing this multiple times, and he got popped for it. Right? He had a large parcel of land, and he was letting motherfuckers go illegally on his land. And he lied to his staff, his colleagues, and everybody. And when he finally did get sentenced, he was like, oh shit, well, I'm resigning now. I'm going to do the grown-up thing and man up to what happened. But it was too late. Like literally, it was on October 1st, and a bunch of people had already voted already. And by the time that he resigned, nobody else could get on the ballot. So he won in a fucking landslide in a very Republican district. And
America loves winners.
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge that he won by a landslide with a cannabis conviction in a very Republican district, right? So let's maybe not perpetuate this whole every Republican is like, fuck you, weed, because that might not be the case. And like, honestly, I guess I don't think that there is a devil's advocate side to this, right? Like the devil's advocate.
Lettuce.
The devil's lettuce is the side, right? And the issue is that we have these archaic laws about a plant that does not fucking hurt people. So if we didn't continue to prosecute people for doing something that is a victimless crime, which is why jury nullification exists, then we wouldn't be in this conundrum to begin with. And this man could just go to work in a suit and tie instead of a jumpsuit.
Jenny Beth, I agree with about 90% of what you said. The one thing I do would push back on is Michigan Republicans have not been against cannabis. Like Michigan, I don't think we've ever said that. Like Republicans in Michigan have been pro cannabis. They've been more corrupt and found to be corrupt because as we've been through like lots of these Michigan Republicans and cannabis stories.
I'd say they just haven't been as good at covering up as Democrats.
Michigan is kind of an outlier of more of a balanced state. And Michigan's like, yo, we like money, and people where everybody's like, yo, we like money, generally tend not to be for all that like save the children bullshit.
Yeah, and I think
that's the only pushback I would have. That's it.
Oh no, and I totally hear you, and I completely agree with you. Yes, and I think that we just kind of sometimes blanket over, and we're doing a much better job lately that the Democrats all do this or the Republicans all do this. Party-wise, specifically, it's more like, hey, how do we get more tax revenue and money? So that was all I was saying. But I
can't co-sign everything he did or didn't do. What I can say is, it's not that the Republicans don't like weed. It's definitely that the Republicans like money. So he definitely was a landlord and benefited from it. And what I appreciate is he didn't turn states. So my metric is like, look, if you do the crime, you do the time. If you get in trouble, you don't make your problem somebody else's. So it doesn't look like he lost his he didn't lose his moral compass in the pursuit of personal. What's that?
He gonna snitch on himself? He's the landlord.
He could have snitched on a variety of other operators or people who he saw come and go or whatever.
I mean, that's what happened. They got popped and it came back to him as a landlord. And they found out he'd been doing this for a long time. And yes, he did know about it.
Haters.
Yeah, but if he's been doing it for so long, I'm sure there are other people that didn't get popped that he could have implicated as well.
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. All I'm saying is it doesn't say he turned states. And so for me, if I'm trying to judge somebody,
he didn't snitch.
He didn't snitch. He's doing it. And my hope is that he does a really good job at the job he was elected to do. Clearly, the $15,000 that he's going to earn doing it isn't the primary motivation, especially when they found 300 racks at his house and he was fined over $500,000. So I hope he does a really good job, and I hope when he gets out,
that $300,000 should have gone to his fine.
Yeah, he's been doing this shit for 12 years. He's been doing this shit since 2012, like as the county controller. And so like, he's probably at this point like, I can do this shit with my eyes closed.
I hope that
his accounting is great.
My prayer and wish for him is that when he gets out, he has a lot more compassion for the vast number of people who've had entanglements with the criminal justice system solely over cannabis or cannabis adjacent activity. And maybe this process makes him more passionate about defending other people's future opportunities in a regulated paradigm, but also understanding that those that don't choose to participate in a regulated paradigm, is it really a big crime? Sure, if you're selling dirty carts to kids out of the back trunk of your Hyundai at the schoolyard, yeah, but just the mere act of growing the plant, it's hard for me to see how in this era anybody is going to jail for that or landlording to a cannabis grower. And so there's some injustice in that, even if this guy knowingly took that risk.
I wonder if he was like running on Law and Order. That would be great.
Were you going to say something, Jesse?
No. Okay. No, I'm just listening.
All right, fair enough. We're gonna roll into a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Money.
And we are back, you guys.
You don't have to be in the game to be a fan. And up next is High 9 News' very own Monday morning quarterback.
I like what you did there. Cute.
Oh boy.
Very cute. Very cute.
But he's not supplying Donald Trump with the best Fox News talking points for Brett Baer interviews. He's here with running the show on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every damn morning. It's the highest Republican in the House this morning. It's Jason motherfucking Beck. What you got for us,
yes.
man?
Good morning, Rico.
Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday weekend with their families, and I saw a funny video over the weekend of Cole from the Cole Memo. He got into an argument with his family over whether it was Tupperware or Tubberware. And I thought that was very, 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 very.
It's
amusing.
Absolutely Tupperware.
Yes, I know.
Those were Tupperware parties in the 80s. Damn it.
I know.
Do you think in the Carlson household they call it Tuckerware?
Oh, God. Well, let me tell you something, you guys. We were talking about Michigan earlier, and we're going to talk about Michigan again because Ohio cannabis prices fall as many Ohioans choose Michigan. That's right, you guys. Ohio cannabis prices are beginning to fall as many in Ohio continue to travel to Michigan to buy products at a cheaper price. Citing data, the Dayton News has reported that the cost of cannabis based on products in Ohio has fallen steadily since adult use was legalized earlier this year, you guys. According to the publication, dispensaries have experienced slower than expected traffic following the launch of adult use program, and pointing to the following factors and reasons why. 1, customer confusion. Dispensaries in Ohio sell flower in 1/10 of an ounce measurements instead of 1/8. Yeah, I've been saying that forever. And vendor cost program rules that are unique to Ohio, you guys. Nikki Stanley, who works as the director of marketing at Terrasana, a Springfield-based dispensary, told the Dayton Daily News that the business has been slower than anticipated. And it's funny because all the stories we were reading when Ohio went launched was like, oh man, there's so much money. Everybody's spending so much money here. Da, 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 da. Well, in an additional quote, she also says, we definitely are seeing a lot more traffic than prior to adult use, but less than what we had forecasted, Stanley told the publication. The average cost of cannabis has been gradually falling since the launch of adult use sales back in August, citing information from the Ohio Division of Cannabis Control. The Dayton Daily News reported the following data that the average price back in August for the average price of 1/10 of an ounce of flower was $26.59. Manufactured sales averaged $31.06, and the average price as of last week in November, the average price for 1/10 of an ounce of flower was $21.76. That's a drop of almost $5. And manufactured sales averaged $28.70. That's a drop of about $3. The cost on the shelf increases at checkout due to a 10% excise tax on non-medical purchases and a sales tax, which has a baseline of 5.25%, with which counties able to levy additional sales taxes on purchases, per the Dayton Daily News. Towns allowing dispensaries to operate receive a 36% tax fund, and the taxes also contribute to a social equity fund, a substance abuse and addiction fund, and other initiatives, according to the publication. Licensed dispensaries are prohibited from selling cannabis products grown or purchased outside the state of Ohio. And when speaking to the Dayton Daily News, Stanley said Terrasana has been getting better prices from vendors since the launch of Ohio's adult use market. In a quote, she says, we saw a lot of price decreases from our vendors, which we pass along to the consumer, Stanley told the publication. Ohio uses a unique measurement system that may be a source of customer confusion. I wouldn't call it unique measurement system. It's still a fraction, but nonetheless, according to the Dayton Daily News, unlike in other states, dispensaries in Ohio sell flower in 1/10 of an ounce measurements instead of the typical 1/8 ounce found elsewhere in the illicit market. Stanley told the publication that there's definitely been some confusion, saying the difference can lead customers to feel like they are paying the price for a 1/8 but getting less. I can understand how they would feel that because they actually are getting less. The Dayton Daily News noted that prior to legalization of adult use marijuana going into effect in 2023, the dispensaries in Michigan were reporting an influx in customers from Ohio, which indicated Ohioans are continuing to travel
travel out of state for their cannabis products. And Michigan legalized adult use marijuana as of 2019, and as of October, the average price for 1/8 of flower in Michigan is $15.50, according to the Dayton Daily News. Citing information from Headset, a cannabis analysis firm, the publication noted that customers, regardless of their residency, are charged a 10% excise tax and sales and use tax on all retail orders in the state. The Dayton Daily News spoke with Ohio Wellness Chief Operating Officer Tracy McMillan, who said Ohio laws prohibiting the sale of certain cannabis products, such as pre-rolls, have slowed down the takeoff of the industry, they said. Michigan's cannabis industry has made $49.43 million over the past 2 years from pre-rolls alone, earning more than marijuana vape products and becoming the second most profitable marijuana-based product in the state. Marijuana-related crimes have... Oh, and that is pretty much it on that story, you guys. Man, oh man, oh man. Michigan is just eating Ohio's lunch, and I am loving this story. Can't wait to talk with you guys all about it. What do y'all have to say about this?
Ironically, Jason, they got their ass whooped this weekend, too. It wasn't a full ass whooping. It was not a full ass whooping, but it was a win, and the Ohio State players were trying to fight them on the field right afterwards.
Of course they were.
Just in true Ohio fashion. Mm-hmm. And this is me just talking a little shit because Northwestern is worse than both of them this year, yet again. But... I love to see it.
Looks like White Gucci strikes again.
Michigan getting in that ass once again.
It's amazing to me that an entire state figured out how to do the worst drug dealer practice of all time, which is short every bag.
A tenth, bro. A tenth. And people think that they're buying an eighth.
Jesse, I love it. I love it. Well, it's not just that they shorted every bag. It's that this is data about what happens when you tax too strong and you tax too much. And so this effective tax rate of 36% on dispensaries, these multiple layers of taxes, what they've done is they've created an incentive for people to go out of their state to get cannabis elsewhere to save money. And so they demonstrate two things. First of all, that the taxes is not an effective regulated paradigm. And secondly, that people will go out of their way to access affordable cannabis if they need to. And so to me, this is a very sad, sad story, because this again demonstrates that this tax structure doesn't serve the custody, doesn't serve the operator, and doesn't usher in and wrap the arms around the existing industry that existed before they had regulation. It's really, really sad. When I see these kind of tax numbers, I start crying. Like, I literally start crying. And yet again, they're talking about all the worthy causes these tax monies are going to go to. We have to start stripping away the recipient base for those taxes versus the tax rates, and start understanding that there are a lot of worthy programs that deserve to find funding and to be supported so that this society is as good as it can be. And it shouldn't be borne on the backs of somebody who wants to enjoy a pre-roll.
You know what? I'm gonna say this real quickly because I gotta bounce, as y'all know, Monday morning. But it reminds me a lot of. It just reminds me a lot of A&W beer, A&W root beer. The restaurants had a huge marketing fail. I want to say like 10 years back, where they tried to come at McDonald's quarter pounder with their third pounder. And the problem, with, some of you might know where I'm going.
Yep, I do.
In all of their testing, all of their little groups, their support groups or whatever that they did prior to getting this out, it tasted better. It had more beef. What they were not dependent upon was the American lack of mental aptitude when it came to math. People thought that 1/4 was more than 1/3. And maybe this is what
because 4 is bigger than 3, Rico. Gosh.
Exactly. And so maybe this is what Ohio was banking on, the reverse of that, and going, oh, 1/10 is more than 1/8. But yet again, Ohioans fail.
I think it's ridiculous. Like, I think that they just needed to actually look at this. Whoever made that fucking rule, I'd like to see, I bet it's someone who's probably never touched cannabis in their lives. And I don't know, I think like they would have been better served like telling us what's actually in the McRib than doing something like this. Like this is kind of ridiculous. I think that you need to realize, like, they could have asked a trapper. You don't even need to ask somebody who's been operating in the fucking industry legally for decades or whatever the fuck it is. You could have asked any old trapper, hey, if you tax your custody too much, what happens? Hey, if you short the bag, what happens? Hey, if there's a lot of shake in the fucking pound, what happens? They say, fuck you, I'm going to go get it cheaper.
And that's the thing, is that the math, you know, whether Americans are good at math or bad at math, they're good enough to know when the taxes aren't mathing and they're going across state lines to save money. And so I think this is you know, it's sad, because this is exactly how you support the trap. This is exactly how you do not create affordable, accessible cannabis for all. This is not weed for the people. This is taxes for the government.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you could realize, like, maybe they're also still not so smart, because the ROI on the gas might mean you should have just bought that cheaper little tenth. But, you know, I think that we need to look at the fact that these people probably aren't necessarily going to Michigan as much as they're going to cousin Jimmy's guy down the street who's got, you know, bags from wherever. So I think that it's a tremendous fail to me. They need to scrap this and just kind of figure it out. And that's a very easy change to make. Go to 3.5s.
They definitely.
I want to take. I think this. And Yarrow, I totally hear you. For the state of Ohio and for Ohioans, it's pretty sad. But there is a positive side that could happen if we actually descheduled and made weed actually legal. Is that the beautiful part about this is that the states get to compete. And one state showing up another state and saying, no, we have a better way of doing this, and people being willing to drive and travel and go buy that weed, that's actually a good thing in the long run, because it's going to push on Ohio to make some changes eventually.
It'll also restore California's greatness. So when we talk about making America great again, or whatever that is, if California can export in a way that doesn't include the risks that trapping that currently poses, there are entire regions that have been decimated after Proposition 64 was passed, and are in really dire straits and need that economic revitalization that could occur by being able to reclaim their rightful place at the top of the podium in terms of amazing cannabis. And shout out to the Triangle, shout out to Sonoma County, and shout out to let the best bag win.
No, absolutely. And I think that would be, it would be huge to open up a new consumer base for these people who have, you know, now that we're so saturated in this market. I think it's also important to acknowledge that a lot of the reason why people allegedly like to sell things out of town is because OT prices are higher than prices that people are going to pay locally, right? So when we cut that out, we're going to kind of also even that playing field out. So you might not get, you know, a couple grand for that bag that's worth $1,100 anymore.
I also concur. Shout out to that Northern California outdoor, the best weed in the world.
I don't know about all that, but
I mean, respect to all those farmers. Listen, the terroir and the relationship between what's going on there climate-wise, it does have an effect on the cultivars that do grow best there. And that's not to say that every cultivar grows best there, but I don't really smoke outdoor weed, but I will agree with Yarrow. There is definitely a relationship when you give a plant the optimal place to survive and do it.
I'll just say to tag that there's a reason that Frenchy Cannoli, one of the best hash growers or makers in the world, went to that region and used mostly outdoor weed.
Well, that's because outdoor weed is better for making hash with, bro. That's just is what it is. And in all fairness, they need
resin, which is
hold on, Jesse. And they do need something to do with all that outdoor weed, because the people shouldn't be smoking it anyway.
And shout out to Leo Stone and Aficionado Estates for growing a lot of that great weed that Frenchie made amazing hash with. Shout out to all of those people.
That's right.
And so when we looked at the California State Fair and I looked at flower and I looked at winning percentages.
Here we go.
The vast majority of those winning percentages in oversized representation was from Mendocino, Humboldt, Trinity, and Sonoma County.
It's because it was rigged.
Now, just like every election you don't like the results of, I get that, but it's not just that there's great operators up there. It's not just that there's great terroir or great environmental conditions. It's also that a lot of the genetics that have been developed over decades were developed and optimized in those regions and therefore do better. And you get the highest genetic expression of those plants because of that. My concern with not having the opportunity to compete is that California, I don't want it to be a ghost town. I don't want us to be a fragment of what we used to be. If we think about this through the lens of weed for the people, best possible bag at the lowest possible price, the sooner we get, like Jesse said, the opportunity for states to compete, regions to compete, and cannabis to be able to legally travel across state lines, I think at the end of the day, that gets really exciting really quickly.
I'm all about interstate trade, so don't get it twisted, Yarrow. I just believe that good things should be traded and other things should just be, thrown in the fireplace for the holidays.
Look,
you know what I mean?
Look, Jason, I love indoor as much as anybody, and I don't necessarily fall into the false paradigm that there's a massive carbon footprint difference once you start taking into account.
And no one cares about that anyway. No one cares about that anyway.
But it is fair to say that because you're sequestered in Southern California for the majority of the time, even though you are an Emerald Cup flower judge, that at some point in the year, you're going to get probably a fresher bag by grabbing something that was grown in a warehouse 6 weeks ago than something that was grown in a field 6 months ago.
It's not about the freshness. I understand where you're trying to go with that, but the thing about it is that indoor weed preserves better over time anyway. Outdoor weed, it depreciates at a much faster rate.
Cap. So it's all about the post-harvest process, Jason. I'm going to have to respectfully, as someone who has run both indoor and outdoor cultivations, disagree with you. It's about your post-harvest process, Jason.
I'm not saying that doesn't play into it. I'm not saying that doesn't play into it, but overall, what's that? Go ahead, guys.
We've talked about this before.
And we're talking about it again.
The thing that you're right about with indoor weed is if you want consistency and you want reproducibility, and you want to have absolutely no possible bug shit or whatever you're worried about being on your flower, yeah, totally 100% indoor is quote unquote better.
Cleaner.
But that's the same thing as a McDonald's burger. It's more consistent. It's more reliable. You're getting the meat from the same place, the same way every time. Whereas if you go and get an amazing steak or something like that, it's going to be different every time because the butcher is different, the cow is different, and the things are more locally sourced and really. So
are you telling me, hold on, Jesse, based off your analogy, you're telling me that if Trump was to go and work in the cannabis space, that he would only choose an indoor grow rather than an outdoor grow?
Oh, 1,000%. He's an indoor smoker for sure. 100%.
Jenny, where are you going, Jenny?
He could never understand the complexity of outdoor weed and terpenes and terroir and the sunlight's interaction. It's way too beyond him. He would have to trust experts like me to take care of that. For him.
Look, there she is. Jenny, we're getting ready to move over to you, Jenny Beth. Are you ready for your story?
I am. Jenny, where are you going, Jenny? Jenny has missed a delivery of a case of wine from Italy 3 times over the weekend.
What?
And I'm opening the window to make sure that. Well, FedEx lied about delivering it twice.
Who sends you a case of wine from Italy, and how do I get on that list?
She has sponsors, bro. She has sponsors, Yarrow.
Shut the fuck up. It's my birthday present to myself that I ordered last month, and
she sponsored herself, Yarrow.
Arrive.
She sponsored herself.
My birthday's in 17 days.
Well, you can't drink that by yourself. You need some company like me. Take me off the shelf. I'll help you drink the vino.
Oh boy. Jason, can I get my intro?
Yes. Coming up next, that's right, it's none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills, America's sweetheart. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3, which helps incarcerated individuals get their lives back on track, which also Kind Cannabis can help your business get itself and its metric back on track. That's right, it is none other than Jenny Beth Dills.
Damn Skippy. Somebody don't need that. And not just when the DCC's outside your gate doing a no-knock. Please call me prior so we can get your situations in order before you get that colonoscopy from the state. But moving right along from that PSA, what we also do is raise money. And I'm working with a German company right now, so this story is really important to me. So the Conference of Justice Ministers in Germany has approved a proposal to revise the country's cannabis laws. The proposal, spearheaded by Baden-Württemberg Justice Minister Marianne Guntis and Berlin's Justice Senator Feller Badenberg addressed growing concerns about the impact of legalization. I'm concerned about Jason Beck's abilities to run the show. I'm kidding. Ginskins and Bandenberg argue that the current law hampers efforts to combat the black market and organized crime, especially in large-scale cannabis trafficking. They're calling for the reinstatement of undercover investigations, which were limited when cannabis was reclassified as a non-narcotic. Since partial legalization took effect in April, adults over 18 can possess up to 25 grams of cannabis and grow 3 plants at home. However, the law's restrictions on surveillance tools like phone tapping and online searches have made it harder to prosecute major drug cases. One high-profile example involved a man caught smuggling nearly 1,000 pounds of cannabis worth over $2 million. Prosecutors couldn't use encrypted chat evidence, leading to his release. Gintkes criticized the situation, calling drug dealers the beneficiaries of the law. Justice ministers are now pushing for changes to close the legal gaps. The Federal Ministry of Justice will review their proposal, aiming to reintroduce stronger investigative measures for serious cannabis-related crimes. So we'll definitely keep following this as it moves forward, because I think it's unfortunate. You hear one bad apple can sometimes spoil the bunch. This guy kicking 1,000 pounds over the border. All right, cool. Here's why I care about that, because normally I'm like, I root for the bad guy. But in a country where we're seeing such amazing progress and had such a great opportunity and still have a great opportunity, I would hate to see that hampered because of a few idiots. So I think it's really unfortunate. We'll see how this proceeds. But I'm going to throw it back to you guys to see what we think is going to happen in Germany. It's got me a little anxious. That's probably why I have a call at 1 today. So we will see what happens.
Well, Germany. This is super interesting, Jenny, because I have my last story is about Germany too, and it's the largest country in Europe, and it's an incredible market when people can get the right handle on it. So it'll be interesting to see how this all develops in regards to. But we did get a super chat in from the C Word, who says, "Could I get y'all to give me a great job, Lucky, to play for my dad in celebration of his best weed grow ever? Thanks, you beautiful stoners."
Well, we totally would, C Word. We just can't, because then we can't monetize because of copyright infringements.
Oh boy, Jenny Beth.
We can't play. Listen, we're on a roll. I am not. Mama is putting her foot down. I am not letting us hamper our progress.
Oh, look at that.
Is that a song I don't know? Great job, Lucky?
I'm guessing it's got to be a Great Job, Lucky song.
Or does he mean say great job, Lucky? Because if we could do that.
Yeah, is he saying say great job, Lucky?
Well,
if so, great job, Lucky.
Well, great job, Lucky.
Yeah, great job, Lucky. Good job. Good job,
Lucky.
Yes. We'll even give you some claps, Lucky. Yes. Good job.
You can give them some claps, but I'm around to give anybody the clap. I mean,
speaking of the clap is back. The clap is back.
Yarrow, I need you to keep your camera on and take your.
Yeah, Yarrow, what's going on with all your stuff, bro? Like you're having issues, buddy.
I have to transition.
Oh boy, here we go again.
To the vehicle, only to the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Jeremy knew you had a coochie.
Yeah, that's right. He was right. You're sitting down, squatting.
How I pee should not be anybody's concern.
We're always concerned with you, Yarrow. You know what I'm saying? I can't believe you let him out of the house, Jenny.
He
escaped.
He's small.
He used the doggy door.
I thought you didn't. How did you let him off the shelf?
We're gonna have to board up the doggy door now.
You just have to know that no matter what flag you fly, red, white, and blue, the rainbow flag, the California bear, all of the above, my flag is a yellow flag.
You fly a yellow flag.
Well, back to Germany. This story for me is kind of a red flag, because it's very concerning. You know, Germany is already, after spending time over there and chairing that conference, what I heard from the medical side of things, is that they are very, very, very much wanting to be very restrictive, very keep it to pills, keep it to things that don't work. Like, once again, I sat and heard a paid presentation from a company that's doing an inhaler that has already been shut down over here. You know why? Because it's not something that we should be doing. It was proven to be not the healthiest option for those patients. And so after safety recalls, that project was canceled. So I'm just seeing the fact that a government is going to possibly end up standing in line with these people who believe that rappers shouldn't use cannabis. We can't have a culture around cannabis. Nobody but people who are sick and dying should have access to cannabis. It's seeming very Kevin Sabet-like.
No Oktoberfest for cannabis.
So I think that this is something that we need to keep our finger on the pulse of, because it's very important right now. You're already not allowing these people to operate anywhere near a major metropolitan, right? So you're already restricting access and making it difficult to get to. So let's try to make sure that we cannot be the asshole that stops progress and makes us regress from what we already are possibly having the opportunity of developing in this country.
I think that's a really good point, and I do nothing but regress and digress. So without further ado, I think the promise of Germany's market has been hampered by some of these yellow flags. Like for example, they wouldn't let anybody vape in public, even though you can get shit-faced drunk in public at Oktoberfest. And their cooperative model and the limitation on the number of patients is still somewhat antiquated when we look at other regulated markets. And so I think Germany poses great prospects. But here we are covering an article where they're complaining, sort of, about a guy not being able to be convicted because they couldn't access his encrypted communications. In this country, at least theoretically, we believe it's better for a few guilty people to go free than it is for a few free people to be held guilty. And so this idea about being able to access people's communications, that's a really slippery slope. And we look what happened after 9/11 and the Patriot Act and the way in which those rolling back of personal freedoms was used in a way that was inconsistent with what it was theoretically put there to achieve. And I think that's the slippery slope for Germany, is that if you start to find a way to justify a Prohibition 2.0, who's to say where that ends? I don't know, but I don't think it ends well.
You are so right about that, Yarrow. And you know what's funny is Jesse actually has a story in relation to that coming up next. Man,
I think it was interesting in that story when they were talking about they weren't able to use the evidence, the encrypted chat evidence, which means that although they knew they couldn't go get and listen, in hell, the Germans, the British make the cars and the Germans are the police. In heaven, the British are the police and the Germans make the cars. So do I expect the German police not to overstep egregiously? No, I don't. But the fact that this is all about the German police sitting there and stomping their feet, about the fact that they infringed on someone's privacy rights and then had the evidence thrown out because they shouldn't have fucking had it in the first place. Like, if I'm moving 1,000 pounds at one time across some state line, if you, Mr. Policeman, have enough evidence and are smart enough and sleuthy enough that you stop me from doing that and catch me with 1,000 pounds of weed in my person, vehicle, wherever the fuck I have it, because that's a lot of fucking weed, then that you shouldn't need my text messages that you illegally garnered.
That's fair. That's a fair point. You should have enough evidence and be able to have an open and shut case just on the fact that you got caught with those 1,000 pounds. And shout out to the C Word, who has another super chat, who says, "Sorry about all the misspelling, Jason." I'm glad we could figure it out up here today, you guys, what he was trying to say. Good looking out.
The power of deductive reasoning.
Yes. And on that, we are going to roll into a commercial, and we are going to be right back. Are you all ready for America's new #1 D9 gummy line? That's right, we are bringing to you Parody Gummy. These vegan gummies are manufactured in a safe harbor facility, so you know they're gonna be clean and safe, and they're not gonna give you any of the runaround. Coming in, we have 3 amazing flavors for you. We have the Raspberry Riots. Also, we have the Sleepy Joes if you need something to help you sleep at night.
And if you're feeling like raging and having a party time, that's right, we have the pineapple Bad Hombre. If you're feeling like a bad hombre, make sure you head over to www.parodygummy.com and secure your bag today. Well, and we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And in regards, today is December 2nd, and it is the day of the descheduling hearing. It did start early this morning, 6:30 a.m. Pacific time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. And I did watch it for a while until all of a sudden it started giving me the circle thing all of a sudden, which I figured it was all because of the Hunter Biden pardon. But I did see a few things in there that I want to kind of just make note of for you guys, because I know it is going to be a topic in regards to tomorrow. To me, the judge seemed extremely fair to both sides and very accommodating. It was very interesting to me that someone threatened to file to throw off the whole ALJ hearing in regards with filing some different types of briefs and whatnot, which would have thrown a wrench in the whole process. And secondly, it amazed me that all of these people are asking for other alternative dates, and the reason that they're asking for alternative dates is because of the fact that they're going to be on vacation, which I thought was extremely unprofessional in regards to the whole process of this whole thing. And a lot of the people that are asking to testify are not testifying as to the merits of what the judge is actually looking for. And so I just, like, a lot of people are just trying to throw a bunch of information out there and to see what sticks, when the judge is actually only looking for certain information pertaining to is cannabis worse than fentanyl? Is it more addictive than fentanyl? And what is the public, what's the public cost in regards with that? And that's the only thing that the judge is interested in hearing, and yet all these other people want to throw everything else in there. So it's going to be a whole total shit show, just so you guys know. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial.
Are you a business that's suffering from the hyperinflation that is plaguing America today? We have the solution for you. That's right, Patriot Business Financing. Head on over to www.patriotbfc.com and apply for a loan up to $2 million. Any state, any industry, even the cannabis industry, the CBD industry, as well as the industrial hemp fiber industry. Secure up to $2 million today, and make sure that when you apply, you tell Paul you said hi from High at 9.
Oh, and we are back. And coming up next with an original piece. Shout out to Jesse Barney, the founder of JB Design and part of the High at 9 team, originally at our very start, infancy. And we're glad to have you back, Jesse, helping out and bringing all of the magic that you bring to High at 9 News. And some of the magic that he's bringing today is this original story. He's been busy over last week and been rampant on the X spaces in regards. And so shout out to everyone that engaged with Jesse to help put this article together. And without further ado, it is none other than Mr. Jesse Barney.
Thanks, Jason. I really appreciate that. I am super excited about this story. The headline is Mark Andreessen drops debanking bombshell on the Joe Rogan podcast. On Tuesday, famous tech and crypto investor Mark Andreessen appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience. During the 3-hour interview, Mark covered a range of topics, mostly centered on recent government corruption he has seen or experienced and why that pushed him to vote for President Trump, even though he was traditionally a Democrat. For those in the cannabis industry, one topic stood high above the rest: Operation Choke Point. A DOJ initiative started in 2013 that forces banks to remove accounts of individuals and businesses they didn't like, including political opponents. Operation Choke Point was expanded sometime after 2020 to also include crypto and banking startups and businesses. As one of the world's leading crypto investors, Mark focused on more recent instances in the tech and crypto world that he directly knows about. In these instances, he cited both founders and employees who have been cut completely out of the banking system and are forced to operate entirely with cash. As soon as the episode was released, cannabis entrepreneurs, among others, immediately erupted with stories of being debanked online. They posted mostly on X, where they feel certain they won't be censored for discussing and reporting government and banking corruption. A quick search for cannabis debank on X reveals an endless stream of posts echoing the woes of even getting a bank account to begin with, and often later on being shut down and banned from any and all banks and credit card companies. It should be noted, being targeted by Operation Choke Point specifically is different than the difficulty every cannabis company has to even get a bank account in the first place. Once Choke Point identifies a business or individual, they notify all FDIC-insured banks and remove the ability to get a bank account anywhere. They do this to businesses and individuals alike, sometimes both. Because Mark only talked about stories from the tech industry, I, at High at 9 News, tracked down cannabis stories about being debanked, and several were immediately willing to share their experience. Angel Ortiz, co-founder of Mylars LLC in New Mexico, says, in October 2023, I had a pretty shocking experience with Chase Bank. Out of nowhere, my personal account was shut down without any warning or explanation. I immediately reached out to Chase, but even the branch managers couldn't tell me why it happened. It was frustrating, to say the least. While I never got an official reason from Chase, I can't help but wonder if my business had something to do with it. What made it worse was trying to open new accounts. I applied for credit cards and personal checking accounts at Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Ally Express Bank, only to be denied by all of them. I felt like I was being blacklisted. The whole experience was a wake-up call about how hard it can be to navigate the financial system as a cannabis entrepreneur, even when everything you're doing is completely above board. Kyle Sherman, the CEO of FlowHub, a cannabis-related software company, had this to say. I started this business 10 years ago, and since those early days, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, we've been kicked out of accounts with all of them. It's just painful, having to deal with trying to find institutions that will work for us. I mean, try to find a bank that understood that we are just a tech company. We integrate with state regulatory bodies like Metric and BioTrack. We're very friendly with all these organizations and these regulatory bodies. You'd think that we would qualify for a bank account, but we've been viewed as a cannabis company, not a tech company. And yes, I have been personally debanked. Chase personally debanked me many years ago and shut down my accounts. Again, without warning, it was just a letter, and then I had to figure out where to go. I think the problem with this is that it's completely uncertain. You can't plan, and that's both with personal and business. So that's where the stress comes from. You can't sleep easy. You could lose your cash. So I end up self-custodying crypto. That's also like holding cash. So not only am I an institution today, I'm also spread across various bank accounts. It's unbelievable. We're in a $35 billion industry that's legal in most states. It's ridiculous that a federally chartered bank or state chartered bank would shut you down for dealing in legal activity. If it was illegal, the federal government would be raiding our homes and they would be raiding our businesses, but they can't do that. And they know they can't do that, so they take this other enforcement angle, which is to put pressure on institutions to try to shut you down, which is illegal. Kim Rivers, the CEO of Trulieve, said, I had all of my personal accounts shut down by Wells Fargo after banking with them for over 20 years and cannot get accounts with any of the big banks. Very common with folks who work in the industry. And Ron Brandon, CEO of Kingston Royal in California, had a similar story. After detailing a long, arduous journey of losing account after account, he said this about being forced to hold cash. I felt safer, actually, with the cash in my possession than the money in the bank at one point. At least I knew it was bolted to the ground in the building where we had security, and I wasn't that far away if something went down. I felt more safe at night with that scenario than cash being in the bank. These stories are just the tip of the iceberg, just a tiny sample of the pattern existing in just one industry out of dozens affected. The federal government has also been applying a similar tactic by pressuring social media companies to censor these same companies and people also. In the Joe Rogan interview, Mr. Andresen contends that there are people in the incoming administration who are hungry to address this scandal of criminal activity perpetrated on American business and open up banking to emergent and fringe industries like cannabis, crypto, and so many others. Let's hope for the future of all of our livelihoods. He is right. Mm-hmm. This is Jesse Barney reporting for High at 9 News.
Man, Jesse, this story definitely hits home. I'm really glad that you covered this because I know I got debanked and I didn't even understand what it was the first time when I went into a bank, and this was under Obama when I must have been debanked because he was the one that started this whole Operation Choke Point thing. I was raided once under Bush, twice under Obama, and never under Trump. And it amazes me that Bush didn't start this, that actually Obama is the one that started this, and mainly to go after cannabis companies. It also affects gun manufacturers, OnlyFans girls, and a few other different what they would call unsavory type of industries or whatnot. But you're right. Like all of a sudden I started having money that just was disappearing from my bank account, and I went into the bank to find out what was going on, and the bank couldn't tell me anything at all whatsoever, and I couldn't figure it out. And this has been going on since I want to say like around like maybe 2000. Man, so it was the beginning of Obama. I'm going to mess up the year of what year he was first initially elected, but I would say 2007, but I think it might have been a little bit later than that, in like 8 or 9. But it's been a nightmare.
I think that's a little different. Like my issues with debanking, right? Like when they're talking about like taking your fucking money, that means like when, for example, my Square got shut down the first time. And they held all of my funds for 180 days. And they said they would give me whatever was left after making sure that they cover whatever charges the bank incurred in auditing my account, which was nothing. And I think that, you're doing your fucking job looking at risk. And that's the difficult part with things like check systems, right? Mm-hmm. So if one bank tells you to go kick rocks, there's now a system that is required by most banks. They're non-check systems banks, but there's also a company called Early Warnings that puts you on a list. And those lists are very difficult to get off of, unless it's like an issue where, you overdrew your account and then you can pay your balances and be off. But like when we fall into these categories where they're saying, no, you're a cannabis related business, because what I do is no different. There are people who will either pay me to do their licensing and compliance, or they pay an attorney to do it. Most of those attorneys are also banked. The difference is they're not going after these attorneys. I'm like, how many criminal defense attorneys do you have on Square using merchant services? How many people is Chase banking from an Esquire, right? If that's not illegal and you guys can bank them, then you can bank me. I write fucking license applications and do compliance. I'm not sitting here creating sales. I'm not doing this. I can account for every dollar that goes into this account. And it continuously happens. And I think that it's a bigger issue, right? Because there's also something that happens when you're looking at how much money is in the bank. There's a reason why, although they could, when you try to withdraw or move something over, they won't do it instantly or overnight, right? There's a reason why they hold funds, because at close of business, the more money that is reflected in that bank, the bank is in a better position. So when they hold the money for extreme periods of time while they're waiting to fuck you and shut your account down and ruin the rest of your life, they're also making fucking returns on your money, which you are due. And that statutory interest, should be also demanded at the time when you actually have your funds released. And if you're not doing that, I implore you to go back to the bank and ask for that shit.
Yarrow, are you still with us, Yarrow?
I am, and this is, first of all, I really loved this. Jesse, you made this piece. This was like a DIY.
Yeah, this is original piece, original High at 9
involved.
No, I said DIY, not AI. And
I said no AI involved.
Oh, okay,
yes, it was entirely me.
Yeah, so, thank you for leveling up. I mean, I love the way Rico usually just, instead of reading the article, talks about his commentary on the article, and it always makes me want to be a better High at 9 News correspondent or participant. And so really hats off for bringing the fire, making content, delivering that content. And for me, this topic is very, very painful. In 2009, on the advice of civil counsel, we took our articles of incorporation for our mutual benefit, not-for-profit cannabis collective. We went down to a bank. We opened up a bank account. We were super transparent. I shook the vice president's hand. We didn't hide behind gauzy terms like wellness center. And within 90 days, that bank called the cops, banged down all our doors, arrested 13 people, and I fought a criminal case for 5 years. And so this is a painful topic for me. As a result of that experience, when Prop 64 passed in California, I've been really focused on watching the glacial change as financial institutions have embraced this industry, or at least allowed for banking. But because of that involvement and the bank training that I do, through a company called West Coast AML Services out of Tiburon, California, where we help these cannabis banking programs with compliance issues. Because of that, I consider this like a solved situation, because I know of a bazillion banks. I mean, I hosted an NCIA panel on banking, where it was the first panel where I said the names of the banks and the payment processors and the financial institutions and just let it all out there. Like, here's the cheat code. Let's figure this out. And so when people continue to talk about this problem, my mind is like, this has already been fixed and solved, because to get a cannabis bank account, in my mind, is not difficult anymore. And the biggest challenge is reducing the costs for these people who have cannabis bank accounts. And I think the easiest way that gets done is reducing the suspicious reporting requirements that increase the cost of compliance for the banks themselves. And so to hear that people are still continuing to have to wrestle with this is very challenging for me, because getting a cannabis bank account, in my mind, is no longer difficult. It's just not cheap. And so,
Yarrow, if you've been debanked, you still can't get a cannabis bank account.
That's not entirely true. So you can often find state chartered banks who will charge you sometimes upwards of $10,000 and $20,000 a month to process your transactions. And the reason they're charging you $10,000 to $20,000 a month is because they have gotten a notice from the FDIC about your EIN and your social security number, and anything associated with those numbers is under direct threat of possibly any moment the FDIC could bring the hammer down. And they're not going to bring the hammer down on you. They're going to bring the hammer down on the bank for banking someone who might be laundering money. That's what this is all about. Operation Choke Point specifically targets these industries, saying that they're likely to be laundering money. So what they're saying is the legal cannabis industry is likely to be laundering money, so you should put the hammer down and not let them bank. Now, these state chartered banks will do that, and almost every state has them, as Yarrow is pointing out. But that is just a feature of the problem of what Choke Point is doing to people. And that is a result of them targeting people. So now the banks are all on notice. Anyone with a cannabis company should be avoided, and there's just these few banks who make exceptions. And the reality is that them identifying you personally and then shutting you down from any bank and everywhere you go, it's got to be illegal. If that's not illegal, we live in the wrong country. I don't know everything's upside down.
It's not, but it should be. And I don't consider this, Yar, I hear you and I appreciate
think it's unconstitutional.
As it should be. But I think that the issue is, if I have to pay $1,500 to even apply to consider having a bank account, that's absolute horseshit. And that's too large of a barrier for entry. That's not a solved problem, right? And I understand that there's increased costs of compliance requirements and things like that, but then maybe consider your compliance contractor and why the hell are they so expensive? So, I mean, maybe there's some predatory billing going on there. I also think that it's just kind of frustrating that there are so few banks, so that we're doing exactly what we complain about in this industry, because we're putting ourselves in a position where your choices are, 1 of 5 or 10 or however many banks. Like, DAMA should not be automatically connected to fucking state entities. That tells me there's somebody shaking hands behind the scenes that's trying to say that DAMA's the guy to go to, because you can directly deposit your fucking CDTFA taxes from your DAMA financial account. Stop trying to filter people to DAMA. Stop trying to make us have to go through all these hoops. The issue is we should all be able to bank. Unless you're an asshole and you're doing something truly shady, we should be able to be banked, because now you're once again putting us back into a cash industry where if I do finally luck up and get somebody who's going to bank me, I have to pay a fee for that deposit. I have to pay a transport fee because I have to hire a transport truck to come and pick my cash up, take it to the treasury, get a treasury check, then take it to the bank. So now I'm also lagging on access to my money. So what if payroll comes out tomorrow? And there are so many issues. Like, how do you charge somebody to make a fucking deposit? Like,
exactly.
Every transaction has an egregious. Hold on. Every transaction has a fee. Like, this is not a sustainable model. So we need to get to somewhere where there is an actual solution, because I don't think, and also you can't get an account if you're a fucking dispensary opening until your license is issued, because then they have to go through another process that costs you between $1,200 and $2,500 for them to verify your license. So what until then? What do I do, Mr. Banker Man? Because every time I open a regular account, you're going to shut me the fuck down. But I'm sitting in that gray area right now where I'm definitely a cannabis company, definitely not operating, but I'm bringing in investor funds. I'm bringing in things that need to be banked. So where the fuck do I put them so that you don't hold my bank account up and shut down my life?
What are you going to say, Yarrow?
I mean, I just have never felt more aligned with Jenny than today. I feel like we're Siamese twins that are just not conjoined. Because she's touching on all of the pain points that are very pronounced still, and the touching on the idea of how do you bank before your licenses have been finalized is an incredibly important point. The touching on the fact that even though we can get these bank accounts, that the fees are burdensome in a way that we don't see in other industries is really, really important. And to me, again, because of the bank training that I do, and because I don't think it's difficult to get a bank account for cannabis entities anymore, again, because of just, living in my rose-colored glasses, I think that the metric for whether we have a healthy relationship with financial institutions as an industry is twofold. It's first, really what Jenny said, which is conventional fees, maybe slightly commensurate with the risk profile, but no longer as burdensome as the tax structures we're being asked to participate in, but also access to lending, because anybody will take our money. And look, if any of our viewers want a list of banks and financial institutions, I give that out all the time, the ones that I can disclose. I don't make any money from doing that. I just want the industry to be safer and smoother and more cost effective. But really the question is, when are we going to be able to access SBA, SBL, conventional business loans at non-Tony Soprano interest rates? Because anybody is happy to take our money these days, but who is going to be happy to lend us money at rates that are sustainable and traditional? And until that happens, I think the capital problem that's so pronounced in cannabis doesn't go away. And the fact that interest rates are higher today than they were 2 years ago doesn't make it easy for cannabis companies or cannabis adjacent non-plant touching companies to access capital at a reasonable cost. And until that happens, that plus taxes, that means that there's not a lot of fun.
Well, Yarrow, to your point, there may be something that is going to come up under this next administration that we won't necessarily even need small business loans, because if I remember in this interview, Jesse, Mark alluded to the fact that that this is something that Elon is definitely concerned with, and that he believes that it's unconstitutional for banks to just be able to debank people because they don't like that industry for that reason. And there may be some possible reparations or lawsuits that will be in place where people that have been debanked can seek some refuge from the federal government.
There's definitely that was Mr. Andreessen's whole point. Was that Mr. Andreessen's whole point was that not just Elon, there's a ton of people in this new administration who are outraged by this, because this isn't just cannabis. This is guns. This is legal escort businesses. This is ATM machine businesses. There's a ton of fringe industries that are getting hit by this, and people are being debanked, and they're being targeted and prosecuted with no due process. There is literally nowhere to appeal. There's no one to talk to. There's no origination of source.
It's very frustrating.
If you get debanked by your bank, they can't tell you why. They can't tell you who started it. You can't sue anyone.
They can't tell you how to fix it.
It's a complete removal of your rights as a human being to exist in this country, and it's frankly absolutely unconstitutional. And we live in a Stockholm syndrome sort of situation where we start to talk about all these other things. No, the story here is that the federal government is illegally, unconstitutionally targeting individuals and businesses and limiting them from their freedom on purpose. And it's not okay. And we all need to stand up and shout and say something together. This is not a left or right issue. This is a human issue and an American issue. And it's super deep. And I know there's tons of people that I talked to yesterday who they literally said, this is traumatic for me to talk about. This is hard for me to talk about because one of the guys was like, I got one of those treasury checks the weekend that I got debanked. He was like, on Monday morning, they cut me a $20 million treasury check because I had $20 million of investment in my company, and I'm an ancillary company. And they just cut me the treasury check. So I'm sitting there in my car with $20 million. That's not a comfortable feeling, and it's not a good feeling, especially when the investment came from legal and great companies. He was like, the investors were PayPal and Kraft Heinz and Headline News. Like we had legitimate companies investing in us, and our money got just given into our lap. And then he's like, then I drove around all week trying to find a bank that would take this check,
right?
And I couldn't do it. So what do? It's like you're stuck, and
well,
that's
You're beyond stuck. You can't even get answers. There's a reason why when you call in and you're like, excuse me, let me talk to somebody in this risk department who's analyzed my account. You're not going to fucking tell me in 2024, fuck it, in 2012, in 20 whatever, that you have a whole floor in your office that just doesn't have phones. There's a reason why we can't talk to these people, and because there's no good reason to shut these fucking accounts down.
Fair enough. You have anything else you want to say on this, Yarrow, before we move on to move it along?
I think two things. I think it's a very slippery slope to retroactively sue over rights we currently don't have as a method to install or get some sort of justice over the rights we should have. I also think it's a very slippery slope for the government to be telling private companies who they should be doing business with. And I think there's a more elegant solution that has already been validated, which is state chartered banks. And so Fiona Ma did this ridiculous listening tour in California back in 2016.
I remember this.
To try to figure out how the cannabis banking problem could be solved, and it had already been solved in other states for other industries, which was state chartered banks. You put all the state money, the CalPERS, the retirement funds into a state chartered bank along with cannabis money. Other banks are going to have to do business with that state chartered bank. They're not going to say no. And so, government has spent a lot of time doing this listening, doing these fact-finding tours, feeling our pain, town hall style meetings, and then did nothing with it and allowed private enterprise to be the imperfect solution with the pain points that have just been articulated by my fellow guests. And so I think instead of people suing and all that just is a suck of time and money and contentiousness, I don't see why the government doesn't come in and do a state chartered bank and say for higher risk industries that are still regulated, like all the fun stuff, the sin tax, the escorts, the guns, the weed, that they don't just create a state chartered bank that will bank, and that way these entities don't have to worry about being shunned by private enterprise.
Well, Yarrow, I mean, your whole solution isn't going to happen in the amount of time that this new administration is going to take over and be able to fix this actually for us, and then we can actually get some real productivity done. But that was cute, very, very cute. And on that, we are going to roll into our final commercial, and we'll be right back. Thank you so much for that, Jesse. going on? Do I have to hit the... Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. Man, coming up next, that's right, it is the man from the Shire who is just so small that all you get to hear is his voice today. You can't see him because he doesn't have his stool in place or a telephone book to stand on or even a booster seat to even sit on today. That's right, it is the man from the Shire, Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
Give me that canned applause. Good morning. Monday morning. I hope our High at 9 viewers had a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend. My story today is out of yet another beautiful place to live besides Sonoma County, California. So without further ado, out of Hawaii, hot off the press, we've got issues. So cannabis caregivers and larger grow sites will soon be illegal in Hawaii, impacting thousands. Thousands of Hawaii medical cannabis patients depend upon cannabis caregivers to grow and process marijuana for them as medicine. But those caregivers will be illegal in just a few weeks, along with the large community grow sites many of them depend on. Lawmakers say that was a mistake and that they will try to fix it as soon as possible, according to the House Public Safety Chair, Representative Della Bellotti. It really was a failure that we did not address this impending deadline, and now we have this crisis upon us, she said, meaning they've messed up. Registered caregivers are allowed to raise up to 10 medical marijuana plants for patients who can't as an alternative to dispensaries, some say are too expensive or inconvenient. Lorraine, who didn't want her last name used in the story, grows marijuana at Care Walala, the state's largest community grow site. She's also a caregiver for her mother. Both feel cannabis has eased their pain, depression, and anxiety. The change at the end of this year is going to affect me big time because I can't grow it here. I can't grow it at home, she said. She said she feels desperate knowing she won't be legally able to help her mother. Jason Hanley founded Care Walala 8 years ago as a place patients and caregivers could share space, record keeping, and expertise. Much of the cultivation is by caregivers. Caregivers will no longer be able to help people grow, plain and simple. So if you're a handicapped person or bedridden person, you have to grow your own medicine. There's no caregiving for you. Care Walala is under a legal cloud after a federal raid 14 months ago that still hasn't led to charges. Hanley said more than 500 patients and caregivers stopped coming after the raid. They're all in the black market, he said. They can't afford dispensaries and they can't get their medicine, and it's as simple as that. The December 31st sunset deadline will also ban grow sites for more than 5 patients. We will probably shut down. Yep, Hanley said. State Senator Joy San Buenaventes, who chairs the Health and Human Services Committee, agrees that the deadline will impact thousands of patients, especially for Oahu patients who live in condos where they are dependent upon caregivers to grow their medical cannabis for them. They won't be able to have that access, and that's huge, she said. Although law enforcement officials expressed suspicion that caregivers and community grow sites will lead to the black market, lawmakers say they will try to make them legal as soon as possible to protect patients. They're left either to the black market, which we know is unregulated and untested and unsafe, potentially, Bellotti said. Now, we're faced with a situation, and we're going to have to deal with it. Oh, my goodness. Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News, hold fire, and I'd like to hear what you guys think and feel about this before I unload.
Well, I have a lot to unload about this. I've spent, first of all, shout out to the good people at Care Walala. They are an amazing group. And it's very frustrating. So I was asked to consult on this and unfortunately didn't receive the information about the RFQ process until the day before the deadline. So I stayed up all night trying to get my little stuff in. But well, Yeah, it does. But, I'm still going to continue to work with those groups, including Carolina in Hawaii. Spent some time speaking to them after I spoke at the event last year, and try to change some of these things. The issue with Hawaii is they have groups that are coming in trying to commercialize. Their lawmakers are obviously being bought and paid for, as it sounds like politics, right? But the issue here is Hawaii is a different place, right? That's why there's a reason why milk is expensive there. There's eggs are expensive there. You can't get things like, I don't have the option to go from Ohio to Michigan as a patient in Hawaii, right? I have to be able to count on what is available for me locally and count on the people who are willing to cultivate for me. And it's very difficult to see the native Hawaiians being pushed out of this industry. It's very difficult to see their lack of compassion. Speaking to their panel of regulators and senators and representatives last year would make you want to put your fist through a wall. Mm-hmm. These people are very passionate about what they're doing. You hear people in there screaming. They had to be removed. And I know that there's always every process. There's somebody screaming, there's hollering, there's a lot of passion here. But they need to understand and see that this passion is coming from the deep care and concern of these people. These aren't mainlanders, right? We're inherently assholes. There are some of us who, yes, care about the patients and care about the plant and are trying to provide good medicine. But at the end of the day, mainlanders typically don't give that much of a shit about their community or their neighbors. Unfortunately, get mad at me if you want to, but it's true. But when you look at these Native Hawaiian people, these are people who are a true community, who are banded together very, very deeply. And so it's inciting rage in these folks that they're being told that I can't cultivate for grandma anymore. I can't continue to do this good work anymore. And it's very frustrating. It's heartbreaking. And I will personally make sure to update you guys as much as I find out. And as we hopefully get some clarity and some correction going on in the situation.
Mm-hmm. Man, this is the mess. I feel bad for all of the patients that are going to be experiencing a lack of their medicine because of this law. But I mean, this is similar. I mean, this happened here in California too when legalization kicked in, because they gave everyone the right to be able to cultivate 6 plants per household, and that pretty much it got rid of a lot of the caregiver model, because they switched that to where under medical and the collective model, you can have no more than 5 people in your collective, and you were only entitled to cultivate with 500 square feet of canopy space per doctor's recommendation. And so we have seen these things happen in other markets and here in California, and so not surprised by this in the slightest.
And that's the troubling thing, is that this is not surprising, but still deeply disappointing. It's a crisis that lawmakers created. You would think that they would try to fix it instead of just feeling the pain. And it's a human rights issue for medical patients. This is an abomination. And so here the facility that is being mentioned as having been the caretaker model, faced federal prosecution 14 months ago. And I just wish every lawmaker who had the opportunity to fix this had an immediate family member that had suffered with cancer or benefited from medical cannabis to understand how pressing this is. I don't understand why they can't just make an amendment or an emergency session or do something to mitigate the issue that they created, or quit your job. Quit your job.
I can tell you why, Yarrow.
Go do something else.
I can tell you why, Yarrow. They don't want to. They don't want to.
Their fucking jobs. If you talk to these people, it was very clear on that panel who was up for fucking re-election, because there was a lot of I's and me's, and I sponsored this, I sponsored that. Cool, you sponsored it, but none of those fucking things passed. Mm-hmm. So don't tell me about your failures. Tell me about what you're going to do to fix this and address more than just making sure your ass is in that seat after the next election.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
And I got a strongly worded email to send when we're done with this episode. So let's wrap this bitch up.
All right then, Jenny Beth. I'm going to roll into my final story, you guys. Man. And we're rolling right on back to Michigan again, you guys. Because, oh wait, I'm sorry. We're going back into Germany. I apologize for that. You ready for this, Jenny? Back to Germany? You got your first class ticket ready?
No, I'm ready. I flew business, but yeah, let's go.
Okay, well, marijuana-related crimes plunge in Berlin since legalization, you guys. That's right. Since Germany partially legalized cannabis in April, the number of crimes related to the drug have dropped significantly in the German capital of Berlin, according to the city's health administration. That's right. Berlin's police database recorded 1,685 criminal offenses under the Cannabis Act between the beginning of April and the end of October, including illicit trafficking or illicit possession, the agency said in response to questions from local Green Party lawmaker Vasily Franco. Authorities also noted 81 administrative offices, including violations of the marijuana consumption prohibition zones. And by comparison, 5,315 criminal offenses were reported in the same period in 2023. Smoking marijuana or hashish has been permitted in Germany since April 1st, but distances from children and young people must be maintained in public, as well as from daycare centers, schools, and playgrounds. Adults are allowed to carry 25 grams of marijuana, but carrying more than 30 grams is punishable by law. And consumers may grow marijuana themselves in limited quantities or join a so-called cannabis club, which grows and shares the drug with members. The sale and purchase of marijuana are still prohibited, and in a quote, contrary to all the scaremongering, the cannabis law is already showing initial success after just a few months. Decriminalization should mean that cannabis users are no longer unnecessarily prosecuted, criminalized, and stigmatized, said Franco. And almost 80% of marijuana-related offenses since legalization have been consumption offenses, he noted, and in a quote says, they will be completely eliminated in the long term, relieving the burden on the police and judiciary, they say. Well, look at that. Could Germany turn into the next New York? I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
The next New York is crazy, Jason. But yeah, I think that shows kind of like a little bit of lack of understanding about what's going on in Germany right now. I think the issue is they're capping these entities, right? They're scheduling them somewhere else. But if you look, that's why I said it's very Kevin Sabet-esque in that, you know, we're seeing reduction in these crimes. And now the police are crying, well, the crimes are only reduced because we can't wiretap you anymore, which is bullshit, right? So having these, you know, we're looking at the facility that I'm working with. They've already raised millions of euros for membership fees. But you're capped at 500 members per facility, right?
I thought you were going to say millions of euros.
It's harder to raise that, I promise.
You guys, I got shit to do today. Let's keep this on target. So I think that we just need to very much stay in tune with what's going on in Germany. There's a lot of pandering from both sides. There's a lot of bullshit being thrown out. And it was very apparent in standing there that there were people sitting at that cannabis conference that do not want actual access. They think they do, but they don't want to understand what access is. Because if the only way that I can use cannabis is I can take a tincture, I want to see who's paying for your nonprofit for you to come in here and provide miseducation.
What do you got to say, Yarrow?
Well, I just think that Germany has missed the mark a bit on consumption and allowing for regulated consumption and for finding a way to legalize and regulate human behavior instead of expecting that not regulating human behavior is going to change human behavior. And so I still am excited about this market in general. But again, it reminds me of the article with Hawaii. You know, we see these replicated pain points across multiple markets in multiple countries. And for those in positions of experience, we just scratch our head and go, why? Why beat your head against the wall? Why be New York-esque? Why limit your patient count to 500? Why? And it's a problem because we've got decades of wins, losses, and what we could do better and different to draw upon. And when that's not utilized to the benefit of an emerging market, it troubles me deeply.
You sound like exactly what I stood there and like literally said directly to the face of these policymakers. And yet here we go. They come and speak to me afterwards. The moderator, who used to be a policymaker, who was obviously very much not for bringing this industry to fruition, is like, well, you need to move it along. I'm like, no. I'm explaining to you why I'm about to tell you this and where it's fucking coming from. So maybe you'll hear it and you'll see why this is not the best path forward. And here are the things that you need to be very well aware of. This was in February of this year. This was very early. Then I spoke to their representative, got his card, continued the conversation, was asked to be a witness at their hearings. Cool, did all this, submitted all these things. They've been told. It's not they don't understand these things don't work. There's something more deep at play here, and it's financial gain. It's the fact that we're looking at politicians who are bullshitting once again. So that is the problem. And until we have some sort of accountability for, if I tell Jason, hey, I can do 900 push-ups and I get hired to do 900 push-ups and I pass out after 5, I should be fucking fired because I said I can do something for my job and I'm going to do something in my job that I did. Mm-hmm. So until we start to see accountability beyond you've sponsored all these things that none of them passed. Were they good legislation? Abso-fucking-lutely not. So what are you actually doing? You're not a champion for anyone but yourself. And I think that that's what they're bumping up against because a lot of their senators were up for re-election this year. And so those districts are going to be very, very, very self-focused and do exactly what we saw the Harris group do, right? Mm-hmm. And try and pander last minute to these issues like cannabis, thinking that they're going to gain more popular votes. And that's a shame to me. So
you're saying, Jenny, that Germany needs a Doge?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Everybody needs
enough.
a Doge. But I was speaking on Hawaii because Yarrow brought Hawaii back up. So I was talking about how frustrating it is in those situations where you are being told by people who've seen it happen time and time again. Mm-hmm. Colorado, California, blah, 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 mm-hmm. right? And a lot of these people are flying to places like Massachusetts to see how they're regulating. They can't even regulate their own damn OCM, and that bitch is about to be in receivership.
Exactly.
So why would you go see from the people who have failed the hardest and mm-hmm. sucked the most ass how to do a good job?
Fair enough. Any final thoughts on this, Jesse?
The only bow I would put on that is, wasn't Germany one of the first countries to buy cannabis legally over international borders from Canada years and years and years ago? And wouldn't that mean this is absolute hypocrisy?
I'm not too sure about that, Jess. I thought that they just had their first legal shipments just a number of years ago. I don't think that they were one of the first.
I'm pretty sure that Germany buying weed from Canada some 8-10 years ago was the first international sale that was
10
legal.
Years ago? Are you serious about this?
It was a while ago, maybe 6.
10 years ago? I see Jenny's Googling something.
No, Jenny's working because it's 10:38 a.m.
Oh, fair enough. All right. Well, on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for always helping us keep the lights on. And apparently, it is Elliot's birthday today, so we want to make sure that we wish Elliot a very, very happy birthday, you guys. Thank you to
happy birthday, bud.
Yes, thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you for that original story, Jesse. Much, much appreciated. And
You're welcome.
Yes, and thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do all this. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Adam out there in the metaverse, and thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.
All right, I gotta go.
I don't know where you put the outro.
Cool, y'all.